We're here with Kevin Federline, and you talk about how you moved to Hawaii. Uh, First and foremost, what made you move out there? Because it's such a jump for you after being such an LA guy for so long.
Yeah, so I mean, Hawaii's always kind of been the end goal for me. I feel like finally moving here is like accomplishing life goals, right?
Right.
Um, when you're young, LA is great, and especially back at the time whenever I first came to LA in '99, uh, it was a different place than it is now. And it might be me. Maybe I got older. Raising a family in LA was difficult, obviously. Uh, and just my first time here, I came out here in '99 as well. And from the first time coming out here, I was like, okay, I didn't want to leave. I think a lot of people experience that when
Yeah.
they come here. It's just a different place, man. I feel like I'm somewhere where people, outside of like the Midwest, and there's places in the States that are on the mainland that your neighbors still, you band together with your neighbors and there's community there, but it's just different out here.
Is kind of like the island vibe better for you now? Because as you know, it's so much more chill there than it is in LA or the States for sure.
It is a way better vibe. I mean, it fits me perfectly. It's so laid back. I mean, everybody always talks about being on island time and all of these things. I mean, it just really has fit the overall description of who I am, who I've always been from birth. I'm pretty much this laid back dude that just go with the flow type of person, and it is definitely my vibe out here.
Well, it's so crazy because I just read your book, You Thought You Knew. Actually, I read it this morning. I read the whole thing this morning. It was a very easy and interesting read. And were on such a whirlwind roller coaster for so many years that, like, it must be such a change for you when you think back to when you were younger, in your 20s and early 30s. Just it was constant, nonstop, a barrage of being in the focus and being in the spotlight and paparazzi and traveling and touring. Uh, was it hard to kind of step off of that?
It is, it really was. The come down from that, right? Like, and I talk about that in my book,
Mhm.
as fame and being in that feeling of like that you're on top of the world, or it's just like it's such a high, like the strongest drug
Mm.
imaginable. And so there is a come down from that. And I think anybody who's in the business, or I mean, even like you guys, it's like when you're go all the time and your life is on a tour bus or from one city to the next, and you're performing in front of thousands of people, and you're, all of those things, is just this massive adrenaline rush, dude.
Mm.
So it took me a couple years to really like settle down, settle into a fatherhood lifestyle of doing what I needed to do for my family.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, and even then, I think that there's moments where you have years later, like I started DJing again. I didn't really dive into that into the book, but in the book I didn't dive into it, but because it was such a short period of time. But when I did that, because I think I was still searching for, trying to jump back out into that lifestyle. And
Mhm.
it's like, and getting there, realizing, hey, it's this 30, 40-year-old guy in the club trying to DJ for all these kids that are 21 years old. I was just like, nah, I can't do this anymore. Wasn't the same.
Right. Well, let's talk about your book. What made you decide to finally write it now, after all these years?
I mean, the timing, I think, was really important that I waited. So much stuff was going on, and obviously continues to go on. It's like this ever
Mhm.
evolving thing. Uh and really, for my family, I think, is why I waited so long, right? Like, I wanted my children. I've said this quite a few times while promoting the book, is like I wanted to make sure that my kids knew what I was doing, and that they were okay with it.
Mhm.
Um And at the same time, now that I've had a little bit of time to reflect on like putting the book out and things, I think that the timing was right, because I feel like things that I said in here and kind of setting some of the records straight and some of the truths that have come out that have been, you know, shocking to some people, as far as my ex-wife. And I kind of took the lead on coming out so my children don't have to, right? Especially my
Mm,
sons. Like, I don't want them to have to come out and tell this story,
mm.
or, you know, if they don't want to. And now it's like I kind of just came out and spoke so they don't have to if they don't want to, you know. I mean, this is their mom, and you know, however that relationship is going to go is going to go. And then now they can like reflect on it to where it's like, if you really want to know all of this stuff in the past, because they were young too, right? So it's
Sure.
not like you can ask a kid to talk about what was going on when he was 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, even their early teenagers, like, do you really want to talk about your mom when you were 13,
Mhm,
14,
mhm.
15 years old, you know? So it's good, a little piece of history there.
Well, it's cathartic too, because you can write about it, and then it's in the book, and it's in the shelf, and if you wanna hear the story, you can read it all there. You don't have to repeat it over and over again, you know, you've got it all set.
Right, right. And that was important to me. I think that, you know, it's an important piece to have there for everybody to be able to move on. Everybody in
Mhm,
the
mm.
story. So, and the best part about it, I think, after doing this is, even though my kids knew, like, they didn't read it all the way through before it came out, but they knew pieces of it, you know, and they'd listen to some of the audio takes that I do, chapters here and there. And my kids wound up listening to the audiobook after it was done. And I mean, they're all just like talking about how proud of me they were. And you know, really, I didn't expect that. Not that I
Mm.
thought they were going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you did this. I knew that that wasn't going to happen. But the fact that they were really supportive of it, and you know, they appreciate the way that I did the book, in the aspect of like, every, you know, so much compassion for everybody involved, right? Like, it's not a bashing thing, it's
Mhm.
just me telling the story and really trying to, you know, I've stayed quiet for so long and let other people talk about me, and make up all of these things, that finally was able to just come out and tell the story and do it in the best way possible.
You know what I liked reading about it is because I really kind of learned your history prior to, you know, meeting Britney and all that sort of thing, and it's 'cause like you mentioned, there was a time where Kevin Federline was, like, the most hated man in America for basically no reason. Like, you talk about that when you were gonna do your Super Bowl commercial, in that you didn't wanna do it at first because it was almost making fun of you, but you were but it ended up being one of the best things. We can talk about that, but I really got some new respect for what you had accomplished even prior to meeting your ex-wife for the first time.
Right. And I mean, you know, and that's the thing with that. I think that is like the way that I came into the picture was so crazy that
Mm.
nobody cared to know who I
Right,
was. They were
right,
just like, no, this dude is a douchebag, straight
right.
up. Like,
Yeah,
that was the attitude. And once you know, you come in like that, and it's like, who cares what he did before? You know, you could tell
yeah,
people all you want. It's like, no, I had a career. I was doing these things. I mean, this is how all of this came to be. You know, I was in
yeah.
that industry already. So, yeah, it is good. I mean, for people to give it a chance and actually go back and look at so much stuff, years of stuff I was doing in LA before I even met Brittany.
Let's talk about some of that stuff. The first one that I was, drawn to is when you were touring with LFO?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But, you know, your kind of first experience of being on a tour bus and being, you know, a backup dancer. But talk about that. Like, I've had this show for 12 years and have never spoken to, you know, someone that was a dancer on stage for a show like that. Talk about the live element of being, you know, one of these choreographed backup dancers. It's kind of a cool vibe.
Yeah, it really was, you know, and I mean, for me, dance is, it's one of those things that was just like a passion for me, right? So
Mhm.
being able to come and get into that scene, and especially the way that it happened, like, it didn't matter who it was for. Like, I started making money doing something that I love to
Right.
do. And then, so you have that aspect of it is like, that's achieving dreams right there in and of itself. And then you get thrown into what the reality of it is. And I mean, it's just wild, right? It's like jumping on a roller coaster ride or becoming a part of a circus, or
Yeah.
so many ups and downs, and so many, like, you always have to be ready to go at every minute. You're living out of a suitcase. You're on the bus partying your ass off. You're searching for girls in every city that you're going to. I was 21 years old. I was just living this life of like, that was my college experience,
Right.
was traveling the world and getting to know so much about everything that the world has to offer. I mean, it was really cool, and being able to get paid at the same time, because people don't realize, like, when you're on tour, the cool thing about tour is that all of that stuff is taken care of for you, and you're getting a check every week.
Mhm.
And on top of that, you're getting per diem every week to spend for. So I mean, you're really able to just kind of stack money away while you're out there living the best life. It was an eye-opening experience for me.
How much do you have to rehearse for a tour, with because I think you guys were opening for Britney, so you probably had a 45-minute set or 30-minute set. Are you nonstop dancing the whole set through?
Most of the time you'll do, yeah, I mean, and when it's a 30-minute set like that, you're usually a part of it for at least 25 minutes of it. And maybe the guys would do, or girl, whoever it was, would wind up doing like one ballad where you're off the stage and they're on there by themselves. And
Mhm.
especially back then, I think that, you know people don't realize that, backup dancers were a part of the everything that the offer had, that the artist had to offer. Like, we were helping people sell records,
Right.
you know because it's like, it was just this plus to all of it. I mean, even you look at like Michael, he always had dancers.
Mhm.
And he's somebody who could carry a stage by himself the
Right.
whole time if he wanted to, but he knew, the advantage of being able to have that behind him. it,
Mhm.
it was good. And I really learned that when I wound up on tour with Pink, which was like probably one of my favorite jobs as a dancer outside of Michael. Pink was awesome. It was I don't even know, like, the the greatest thing that could have happened to me for my dancing career was that, because I learned so much, and she was such a cool, down to earth, just regular human being. And we were really, that's where it became a real tight knit family. With LFO, I was kind of on the road for a month and a half, and then came back to LA for about a month or so, and then went back on the road for a few weeks, and then that journey was over.
Mhm,
And then it's kind
mhm.
of like, what next? And you're scrambling and doing all these things to try to make ends meet. And it's a tough
Yes.
gig. It's a
S
tough gig.
so what was it about Pink that you really learned then? You mentioned it being part of her family.
It was, I mean, the people that were on tour, right? I mean, there was probably what, four dancers, her security, and then her tour manager. All of us gelled together. It's kind of like one of those, like a dream team type situation,
Mhm,
where it's like everybody just kind of connects. Like, you could have always been family. You could have,
mhm,
all those people could have been in your life forever. And that was it. Like, for me, it was that experience. It was made it easy. Not that everything was always perfect and arguments didn't happen or any. You always have that, but you have that in your family too, right? But these people, the way we gelled together, the way that we, on and off the stage, tour bus rides were, a 13-hour tour bus ride seemed like 2 hours, because we
mhm.
were just, that was it. It was just the time of my life. For over a year we were on tour, and I got to go see places that I'd never seen before. I talk about Australia in the book. I talk about, just certain situations that, so much comedy, so much, it's just one of those things that you wish you would never end. Like,
Mhm,
that's how good it was. And I mean, for her, like, she was really so helpful. Even though she was younger than all of us, she was so smart, and so, like, she was just real. Like, this, she, everything that she was, she wore it on her sleeve. And I like that. I like people that
mhm.
are like that. I like that. no matter if you agree with them or not, it doesn't matter. What you see is what you get, and either you accept it or you don't. I mean, that gains a lot of respect for me.
Like, you know, going on tour as a singer, sometimes you completely forget the lyrics, or sometimes you're out of tune as a, you know, guitar player. Have you ever forgotten your dance moves on stage in front of thousands and have no idea what the hell you're doing?
Dude, yeah, especially in the beginning, and it's funny because they laugh at you for it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's nobody really makes it. It's not like this big thing. Now, like, granted, like if it was on stage with Michael or somebody like that, that it's like, okay, precision is expected,
Mhm.
uh, perfection is damn near expected. But with them, no, man, we would mess up all the time. And it would get to a point to where, especially when we were with Pink, it would get to a point where it's like you were like playing a game of tag on stage. You're playing, and people don't, the audience has no idea what's going
Right.
on. You know what I mean? But it's like you as your group, you're like playing these little games. Or sometimes, I mean, there was a time where Pink messed up and actually hit one of the dancers. Gosh, I can't remember. I think it was this guy, Jesse. She busted him in the face with the microphone. And I mean, hit just blood everywhere. And then I fell off the stage one time when I was with LFO. I can't remember. We were performing in like this huge skating rink, and they built this stage, and the walkway to the stage kind of wound like that. And there was this gap in there, and they didn't tape it off. So you could see,
Mhm.
dude, I'm running out to get on stage, and I mean, just drop down
Oof.
in the pit. So, I mean, I've had moments that are,
Yeah.
embarrassing, but I mean, it's like in the moment, your anxiety kind of kicks in a little bit, but I mean, you figure it out. And the more you do it, the better you are. Cause like there's moments where you might mess up a step or might mess up for a quick second and nobody catches it except
Mhm.
you or the people that know what you're supposed to be doing. And so a lot of those things, they go unseen, but it can get nerve wracking in the beginning. It's one of those things where it's like when you're a rookie or when you're a vet,
Yeah.
it two different feelings, because even if you're a vet and you mess up, you're like, oh, whatever, shit
Yeah, yeah.
happens.
Yeah, when you're first starting out, you think all eyes are on you and you're gonna get fired tomorrow.
100%, that's right. Oh, and I talked about, with LFO, the first night that we were on tour, and we went out because we were in Panama City, and we went out like one of the nights because we were there still rehearsing for like a week with the stage and all that. And we went out. I think it was after our first night of show or the second night of show. And we had to leave the next day, and we were supposed to be on the bus at 7 a.m. And we went out, and I went out, and some girl took me out to the beach, and I wound up late, man. And I thought the tour manager back then, he was not happy. I thought I was gone.
That's
I
it,
thought I
yeah.
was like, oh man, my first job, I did 2 shows, and they're gonna send me packing and bring somebody back in here. It's like, so,
If you love epic stories of myth and legend, listen up. Before Camelot and before The Crown, the Pendragon cycle, Rise of the Merlin, tells the origin story of the legend that shaped Britain in a 7-episode cinematic epic years in the making. This is not a retelling of the King Arthur story. It is the rise of the world that made Arthur possible. The Pendragon cycle, Rise of the Merlin, premieres on Daily Wire Plus tomorrow, January 22nd. Shot across multiple international locations, this series brings myth to life with serious production value, full scale battles, and a sweeping original orchestral score. At its core, this is a return to classic epic storytelling where faith, prophecy, and sacrifice truly matter. Stream the Pendragon cycle, Rise of the Merlin, starting tomorrow only on Daily Wire Plus. Let's talk about Michael and working with Michael. I just watched the "You Rock My World" video for the first time in probably 20 years. Forgot how long it is. 15 minutes long. It's a short movie. Classic Michael, Chris Tucker, Marlon Brando, and you are in this extravaganza. Talk about what that was like and working with Michael.
oh, I mean, first off, when you get the call, it's just like that was it. Especially everything that you're doing leading up to that point is like you finally feel like, okay,
Yeah.
I made it, you know. And the whole experience was just kind of like a dream come true. Because I mean, when I was a kid, as I'm sure of many dancers and even artists, Michael is like, you're looking up to him for years. I mean,
Yeah.
he spanned decades of what he did, and nobody will ever touch, you know,
Yeah.
very few people can even be compared to this man when it comes to performing. So I mean, it was one of those moments, man, that I like. I'll tell my kids, my grandkids, my, you know, those stories. And I mean, for to meet him and to be a part of that whole video, and it was just, you know, I talk about that in the book in a sense of like, not only was it like this amazing performing experience, it was, and like childhood dream, there was also like a lot of lessons learned, and like on a spiritual level, it was just, it really got me to where when I dance, I always felt like I was tapping into something, you know, and it was like people could kind of see that, you know, if you're
Mhm.
going into audition and you're just in your lane and just vibing out. And same thing with music, you know, if you go in and you're making music and you're really just vibing like that, people make connections to that. They don't know why, they don't know, you know, and I
Right.
feel like I learned a lot of that aspect whenever I did Michael's stuff, because he is, as soon as that camera is on, he is able to tap into that realm of whatever it is, and it just attracts you. You know,
Mhm.
it's one of those things where it's like you can't take your eyes off of him. And I've even seen old clips of him whenever he does like concerts, and there's moments where everything is silent. He goes out there and just stands and
Mhm.
looks at the crowd and stares at the crowd. And I mean, there's something there where it's like the connection is crazy with no words, no
Mhm.
dancing, no, you know. And so I learned a lot of that just straight vibe, man. And that to me was like the biggest takeaway from that experience was like, okay, this man is a genius, and he
Mhm.
has really learned how to tap into something that is unexplainable. You know, it's just a feeling. Um, and I also got to see, you know, I didn't talk about this too much in the book at all, as far as like being on set. We shot this thing in the back lot of Universal Studios, and once Marlon Brando and Chris Tucker and all them were on set, man, I remember walking out of my trailer and getting ready to go in, and Michael and Marlon Brando are sitting in a golf cart driving around, dude, drinking wine, like acting like they're gonna run into people that are walking around on the back lot, and they're just, I mean, they're laughing their asses off, dude. And, you know, to see the playful side of it and to see like the human side of it was
Right.
really really cool too. It really was. And I mean, he was like, there was moments where he, if he wasn't shooting and other people were shooting like different little pickup shots and stuff, he wound up like hiding on set and like squirting people with the squirt gun, and they didn't know where it was coming from because he's in between the walls. And you know, I mean, it was just, it was a lot of fun. It was a really good experience.
Were you one of the 4 guys behind Michael?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was you. So you were right there with the actual choreography of, like, the famous Michael Jackson choreography. You told a great story in the book about how you guys didn't even dance to music, you just danced to the click, and what that means, people that don't know, is you hear just, like, the keeps the beat, like, tick, 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 so you're just dancing to that, not even to the whole full music. Talk about that story and that experience, because it's a good one.
So that to me was crazy because I've never ever done anything like that, you know. And the choreographers, Richmond, Tony, Fly, and Michael Rooney. So there was 4 choreographers on that gig. Richmond and Tony have been dancing for Michael for a long time. They've worked with him. There's 2 Samoan brothers that are like absolutely amazing dancers, right? Still to this day, they work on like most of the Michael projects like that are out. They told me that he likes to do the click track thing. This was all before, you know, it actually happened. So the click track came in the same time that we met Michael,
Mhm.
which is what made it so crazy, is that we're not getting to dance to the song. And we thought that when we were showing him what we had been working on for 2 weeks, we thought we were going to be able to perform it to the actual song, and that was not happening. He came in and shut that down real quick, sat in that chair and played the click track. Well, I kind of felt like a rookie all over again. You know, most of the guys that were there had either danced with Michael before, or you know, they had already been way more seasoned than I was, you know, at least 4 more years of dancing for artists than I had been. And man, that click track, it threw me off so bad that I missed a step. And I mean, he was sitting there listening. You know, I talk about it in the book to where it's like you could see his eyes. He had sunglasses on, but they were like, you know, dull to where you could see his eyes, and he had his eyes closed. He wasn't even watching us dancing.
Wow.
And he heard the misstep and looked right at me. And that, you know, I talk about how it just kind of shakes you to your core, because it's just like, man, is this dude like telepathically knowing that I'm like, you know, it really got to me. And I was nervous. He knew it, and he just stopped everything, kind of calmed me down. Even though he was trying to act like he's talking to the whole group, I know that it was directed
Yeah.
It's like, look, I know it's the first time, and let's run it again. So it was cool. It was a cool moment, very nerve-wracking, but and that was like my first experience meeting him, you know, being around him. And obviously you gradually work on it. The funny thing is, like, we did 2 weeks of rehearsal, and he must have been working on it, you know, somewhere else with choreographers, because we came in for like 2 days after that, if that, and rehearsed with him a few times, and then that was it. Shoot day, you know, was right around the corner. But all that in all, like you said, he likes to shoot his things like movies. Most of the videos that I was doing at that time, you know, you're rehearsing for like 2 days and doing a 1-day shoot. For this, it was like shooting a mini movie. You know, you're rehearsing for 2 weeks, and a lot of, like, when we did LFO and Pink and all those things, like, we're rehearsing for 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks to do a whole tour. This was just for a short, you know, video. So, and that goes in, you know, feeds into the perfectionist part of it, right? And it's funny because Michael, like, when the camera's rolling and when it's time to work, it is a very serious thing. Like, he strives for that perfection. He knows what he wants before it's even filmed. He knows what he wants before it's even recorded. You know, which is it's crazy, because there's not a lot of people out there like that, that actually have the whole vision. You know, you might start something with a vision and then it mutates into something else. No. He sees it all, every aspect of it, every single sound, every single move, you know, which was that was an eye-opening thing too. But then as soon as camera's off and it's like, it's playtime, you know, it's like, it's great.
Last question about Michael. What was he like as a dancer? I mean, obviously you're a dancer as well. What did he do that made him so much different than the rest, and possibly the best ever?
You know, I really think that it was his work ethic, and it was a lot of the guys around him way before I was a dancer, right? Like, you know, Michael always, from my understanding and what I've been told through other choreographers and people that have worked for him for a long time, is that, you know, I mean, he always watched like the Gene Kellys and you know, the greats from back in the day. And then once he got with the group that was around him, I don't know if it was the 80s, once he started doing the moonwalk and Poppin' and all that, like Poppin' Pete and Poppin' Taco, and like all these like guys were around him, and he ate it up. I mean, for me, I think he was a prodigy from birth, right?
Yeah.
And I think that his family like fed into it, and his parents were, you know, especially his dad, probably really like putting a lot on him from the time he was young. But then once he got it into his own hands and really realized like, oh, I'm going to take control over all of this. And then he had the people around him that were teaching him all this stuff that had never been seen before. I mean, he soaked it up, man, and that was it. I think he just started killing the game. You know,
Mhm.
it's just one of those MIT genius or something, except
Yeah.
for his was entertainment.
Let's talk about how much your life changed once you started dating Brittany and how fast, because you talk about how you guys met up and you didn't think it was going to be a long-term thing. And then, a week later, you're calling your mom saying this is going to be insane. Just how much, because at the time, too, she was the top star in America, probably, right at the advent of social media and phones and cameras and all that sort of stuff. How did that affect you as a young guy being thrown right into that?
It was wild, man. I mean, I don't think that even if somebody was preparing me for years, it would have never happened, right? Like you can't prepare enough for this. Um, and I I didn't come, I was in that world. I don't come from, her world was a whole different world than I
Right.
was in, even, right? And so like being put into that, and then even the first couple of days, like I had no idea until we went out, until those moments of like the first time the paparazzi was chasing us, the first time that we were out in the actual
Mhm.
realm of Hollywood. That is when the eye-opening experience came. You're just like, damn, is this what life is like for you all the time? And uh, like I said, you just can't prepare for it. And cameras were paparazzi at that time. Cell phones didn't have cameras on them, thank God. And it was all of that.
Yeah.
Technology was starting to take the turn. So we were like at the tail end of the CD DVD
Yeah.
era,
Yeah.
and you know, it was just wild. I mean, paparazzi were getting paid so much money to take a picture.
Right. But talk about that. You're just what you just said, and you say in the book how much money. I don't think it's like that anymore. The paparazzi made to get a picture of Brittany and Kevin. You said it could be $1 million for a guy or something like that.
Dude, yeah, well, and that's it. That's where you run into like the scandal. That's where you run into like the horde of people following you all the time. Doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're in the grocery store or you're in a Starbucks or you're going, and they're constantly getting the same pictures of you pumping gas, or they're waiting for one little mishap, because that's it. That's all it takes is one stupid little thing or a smirk or something. And it's like they're getting pictures for, you know, um, thousands,
Yeah.
thousands. It's wild, man. And it gets to a point where it kind of puts you in danger. You know,
Mhm.
back then especially, and I touched on that a little bit. So and for me, like that whole thing for me was such a learning curve and growing experience, and like how do you sustain a relationship, and how do you sustain a life when that is your life, right? Like it
Mhm.
is,
Right.
you're literally the circus, you are literally the zoo, you are you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's a hard, and that's why I think like a lot of relationships don't survive that. A lot of people don't survive that. That's where drugs and all of these things come into play, because it's like you're trying to find ways to cope with something that you don't know how to deal with. Nobody knows how to deal with it. Some people handle it better than others, but it's still, it's just a wild ride. And that all goes back to what we were saying in the beginning, is like that is, becomes the addiction. You feel like since you are so popular and so well known, your ego comes into play, and then that's the worst thing that a human being
Yeah.
ever has to battle, is your ego. And it was nuts. So yeah, I mean, when all that happened in the first few days, and I wound up calling my mom and telling her, and she's just kind of blowing it off, it's like, no, I got an eye-opening experience into what's about to happen in my life, and I was
Mhm.
trying to like let my mom know, like, you have no idea what's about to happen. The shit show is gonna begin right now, you know.
Yeah, it's almost like, and you talk quite a bit in the book about incidences with Britney and some of the crazy things that she did, but you almost feel bad for her in a lot of ways because, she comes in this, what was 12, 13, 14, and then has to deal with this her whole existence. Like, it's not an excuse, but you can almost feel like, well, how could you not end up being a little bit, off your rocker when you had to deal with this? When you had a taste of it, imagine what she had to deal with, and you do, and right?
Right, right. And that's it. That's where a lot of my sympathy for her comes from that, right? Because this isn't all just her. A lot of people out in the media, they like to point fingers and act like, oh, you're doing this and you're bashing her. And no, no, no. I'm not saying that this is all her. I'm saying that there are so many things at play here and so many people. Hollywood is to blame. You know what I mean? Number one, like giving a person everything and expecting them to be who you want them to be and not letting them be who they are. And you're talking like 16 years old is when that started, right?
Right.
I mean, for her, obviously, yes, Mickey Mouse Club, all that.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things before, but to put a 16-year-old in a situation where you drop a record and it goes around the world overnight, man, and you're instant success, and then it just gradually goes bigger from there.
Mhm.
We're not talking one hit wonder type
Right,
situation.
right.
You're talking like you said, by the time we were together, she had already been on the radar and at the top of the chart for years. And so young that you're not even able to, how do you even know? You don't even know who you are.
Mhm. Right.
On a human level, you have no idea. So it's like she's trying to figure all these things out, and all that stuff comes into play when I think about her situation. Goes like there are so many aspects of things that were going on around her, and for me, like whenever I talk about it in my book, a lot of the things that I get upset about and the things that have happened over this is all the stuff that directly, impacts my children.
Right.
And so that's where it's like I kind of had to draw a line where it's like, okay, yes, and even while we were together, I talk about it in my book, like so many times I let things go because of that mindset, right? But at some point you have to like hold somebody accountable for the decisions that they make, especially when it's affecting our kids, man.
Right.
That's it. That's the battle within myself, that I dealt with for 20 years, and that's the battle that I talk about in this book is like I bent over backwards for so long in hopes that a situation was going to get to a point where it was great for the family, and that never happened, and that's the hardest part about this is that I know that my kids are still going to have to deal with everything that I've been dealing with for 20 years, and this book was kind of my way of being able to like come out and try to gain some support or cry for help for that situation because it's still going on with them.
Sure.
And for me, it's like I'm setting it down, man. Like I can't, my life has to move on without, and I'll always be there for my kids. But I mean, a lot of that all fed into telling the story that I told about me being a father and dealing with, the Britney side of my story is me kind of coming to terms with everything, letting people know that it wasn't the way that you thought it was, giving you a lot of the truth, obviously not all of it, but I'm giving you enough to know that like this is what my children are dealing with and that they've had to deal with throughout their lives, right? And now it's time, one last cry for help, and I can't, like I can't keep doing it.
How did you still find yourself and keep in touch with yourself when you're married to one of the most famous, entertainers in the world? Because here you are, and you have a career that's successful with Michael Jackson and Pink, but then you get married to Britney, and now you're Britney's husband. How did you still keep in touch with yourself during that time?
Even though I was still learning about myself and still growing as a person, I kind of knew who I was before we were together.
Right.
And I knew that like I'm a very real person, so I would never really deviated from my core values of who I
Mhm,
am.
mhm.
And I knew that that was a big strength in my relationship with her, because either she was going to respect that or not, you know. Um, Having fame and all of these things come into play, especially when it comes to work. As a dancer, it was like, okay, either I jump into choreography and try to take it to a different level, but at the same time, after I did Michael, I kind of lost like a little bit of my drive, because I felt like I had reached the top as a dancer. I was kind of like, okay, what next? And I mean, I did like You Got Served, the movie, and I worked with Usher on one of the award shows, and I did a few things here and there before we got together. But once we got together, I didn't really know what to do, and I always loved music. So that's when I went back in and started doing music again, and really, try to switch lanes and do something else that I love to do. And I really like found passion in music, and friends that I was with, and people that I met in the industry that are producers and all of that. Like that became a second uh, passion project for me. Didn't turn out the way that I had hoped, but who cares? I would have kept going and never gave up had my life not taken the turn that it did, as far as our divorce and all that. I kept making music when we got divorced. I kept making music for years, and I wound up making really good music that I never released, and working with people. I talk about that in the book as well. It's like, because it kind of it goes together to me. It's like music made me want to dance, so being able to dive into music kind of fit hand in hand with who I am. But you can't force the world to perceive you as a musical artist when they already see you as a douche.
But let's talk about this though, because you mentioned in the book about how you really put a lot of time into your music and this album that you're making. You're very happy about it. And then when it comes out, like you mentioned, because you're the douche, nobody pays any attention to it. No one gives it its due. Very soul crushing moment for you when you put so much time and had so much belief in this.
Yeah, I mean, with that first album, I think that it was probably a premature project in and of itself, but it was something that I was so proud of. And I was still young enough to where, what I was making, I was like, oh yeah, damn, this is good enough. Let's go. Let's get this out here. Let's get that out here. Let's try these different things out. I was still kind of exploring myself as an artist
Mhm.
when it came to the music side of it. Uh, and I knew that there's obviously, if you don't have haters, you're not doing something right. That's kind of like the
Right.
attitude that I've always had. Um, but yes, whenever we started shopping it, we started doing these things, and wound up, you know, putting it out ourselves. I mean, we did go, I can't remember what label we went through, like a sub label, um, and put it out. I think that the combination of everything that was happening at that time is kind of where the big shock value for me came, of like, shit, man, people are blasting this, but at the same time, immediately, my album release party becomes the most dreaded day of my life at that time, because of what was going on with me and Brittany.
Right.
Then not even a week later, she files for divorce, and I'm trying to promote an album, and I'm worried about my kids, and it was just too much all at one time. And so it really kind of put this whole just stain on the project that I had been working on for over
Mhm.
a year. Um, and so it took me a little while to even get back in the studio to start recording. I mean, I literally sat back for a few months. Obviously, I had to like really start thinking about, what fight am I going to choose to do? Am I going to fight for my career? Am I going to fight for my kids? I was trying to do it at the same time, and it just doesn't really work that way, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
especially for me. And then I'm fighting depression. I'm fighting all of these things, because it's like your whole life is flipped upside down. I mean, And that's where those years, like from my album release party until the time that I met my wife now, those 2.5 years span was just a really turbulent time. There's a lot of fun memories in there with me and my boys and being wild and partying and doing all that stuff when my kids weren't around. Like I have definitely had a blast, but a lot of that was done, like I said in the book, to mask
Right.
what was really going on in me, and it was just everything leading up to that was maybe a couple of bumps in the road with me and Brittany here and there. But I mean, for the most part, like there's a lot of really good memories in there. There's a lot of really good times, a lot of things that me and her had that I never thought that I would have with anybody until I met my wife now. I thought that was it. I thought that this was going to be life. And then having the kids and having the kids be as young as they were when all of this other stuff started happening, it was just like, oh my gosh, man, it was a wake up call.
Well, I mean, and you were completely caught off guard when she served, filed for divorce. You even mentioned finding out about it on Much Music in Canada. I mean, you obviously did not see this coming at all. You didn't expect this, nor you didn't want this, from what it seems like from what you wrote.
Yeah, I mean, initially, and that's it's hard because it's like one of those things where it's like you don't know what you would do if it would have kept going.
Yeah.
And at the time, like I knew I had to put my foot down because I wasn't going to sit there and watch what was going on.
Right.
And then, for her to file, and even after she filed, I mean, that's when I really had to make the choice of like, okay, am I going to sit here and we're going to like make this go through, or am I going to try to sit back and work this out? Because there was a few times over, you got to sit out like 6 months until a divorce is finalized, and they make you go to therapy and they make you go to family counseling because you got kids and all of these things. And there was probably a couple of times in there where we could have tried to work it out, but I didn't see, nothing was changing, and you're sitting here watching it just like the rest of the world. I saw what was happening because they're getting her coming out of the clubs, and then I'm getting phone calls on some of those nights too, where it's like, okay, nothing is changing. There's no progress here. You're not showing that, you want this to work. You're saying that you want it to, but you're not showing it. And neither was I. I mean, dude, I was, just as bad. You know what I mean? Just not when I didn't have the kids.
Right.
My irresponsibilities came when I was alone with friends. And that's really the only difference between the two of us in that aspect, and a lot of people think that it's like I'm sitting here trying to point fingers, but that's not what it is, man. It's really like what matters to you most in life, right? And that I had to make that decision. And obviously it was an easy decision for me because nothing is more important to me than family. I'm lucky, and I talk about that in the book too, because the reason why family is so important to me is because of the family I had raised me. And not everybody has that. So I do. And I know that she struggles with stuff in the past with her family. And I know that it's two different histories when it comes to the family aspect of each of us, so I try to take that into account with her as well, and not pointing blame. I mean, this is just the way that it is. It's the way that it was, and how everything's turned out, and I just hope for change for my kids,
As we start to wind down here, let's touch on your time in WWE. You were there when I was off for a few years. I know you had a great time there, and it worked out to be a pretty cool little story they had. Talk about that.
Man, I watched WWE when I was a kid, and by the time I hit like later teenage years, I started focusing more on dance and my own stuff, so I wasn't really. But when we got the call to go out there and at the Staples Center, well, back when it was the Staples Center,
do this, and
do Cena and just the whole thing was just like I was skeptical, but once I got there, once I got in that realm, man, and they hand you, this is what you got to do, and you're literally going out there and improv a whole speech to the crowd, bro. I loved it. I loved it. I loved how they hated me. I
Yeah.
loved that. I mean, you eat it up because at the end of the day, it was all different. When you're leaving that arena, you got thousands of people out there that actually love you. They
Yeah.
love to hate you in that ring, but they actually love that you are the villain in this. And the guys, the group of people, everything about that, man. You guys, I have so much credit goes to all of you guys. The work ethic of you guys is like a football player, or you know what I mean. People don't
Mhm.
realize like how strenuous it is of what you do. They don't see, and I only got a couple of days of training out there in Venice, man, and I was like, that was it for me. I was just like, this is absolutely mind blowing at what you guys do. I mean, it's brutal on your body. It is as it's just
But
it's crazy.
it's a place too where when you mentioned that people thought you were a douche, you can go and just really embrace that and get, people's reactions for that reason.
Yes, yes. And that was it, so it was only my stint with WWE was really only supposed to be that night at Staples.
Yeah.
And once they saw the reaction and once they saw the just the back and forth between me and Cena, that was it. Vince called us in and was like, "Hey, I want to do more of this. Are you guys down to do more of this?" And I'm like, getting thrown on my neck every night. Like, what are we talking here? Because I mean, weight wise back then, it was night and day. I was a stick compared to him, right? And
Yeah.
most of you guys,
Yeah.
but it was like I had to do it, dude. I had to do it. It was literally that's one of those moments that like even my kids now still talk about it. They'll go back and sometimes they'll see clips of it. They'll see clips of this and that. And it's something that like my family shares off and on, especially like right around now, holiday season and stuff.
Yeah.
And my kids come back and some of those conversations pop up. And it's really like it's an awesome one to share. And I have so many good memories, man, with all of you guys were you guys there. Everybody in that circuit was amazing.
And you ended up beating Cena too, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah. That was with a little bit of help. I mean,
Yeah.
I went out there once again looking like I wasn't ready for what was coming. Um, yeah, it was so much fun. I did beat Cena. He just retired too,
He
right?
did. He did. Very
He
timely.
retired. He retired tapping out though. Like how does everybody feel about that one?
I mean,
You kind of wish.
it's show business, right? So it's I don't mind it. I think it's pretty good, but other people don't like it. But that's the idea, you're supposed to get a reaction from it. So
That's right. That's right.
that's what it's all about. So
Yeah, I
last
thought I was going to hold up a belt after that. That's
doesn't get any bigger than that.
that's right. That's right. No, but man, no, dude. I really I appreciate you guys. You guys are there's not many like you out there. You guys are
Yeah, that's
pretty
cool,
damn
man. Thank
pretty
you.
damn awesome, bro.
Last few things for you, Kevin. Like I said, after reading the book, which I really enjoyed, is there a story in there that you like the most, that stands out the most for you?
Oh gosh. I mean, for me, like being able to tell my story as far as like the dancing side of it,
Mhm.
and those things were really, especially like I said, Pink and Michael. Really, I kind of were some of those stories in there, and there's a lot more, obviously, that you could add to that. There's a lot of things that I left out. I kind of did. I left a lot of stuff out on purpose just in case I want to tell some of my own personal stuff
Sure.
again with my friends and things, because I didn't even really dive into my friend group as much, and that we kind of played it out like Entourage was my
Mhm.
friend group, and
Yeah.
maybe times 10. But That's kind of how it was back then for me. But yeah, I mean the dancing stories were really important to me, and I think the overall aspect of the book that was super important to me was kind of just showing people how I came into fatherhood, right?
Mhm.
And how I became the father that I am now, my life lessons, and really, being transparent, most like as possible, being absolutely transparent as possible, as far as like, look, we all make mistakes, you grow from them, you learn from them. I'm trying to put that out there in hopes that, things change for my kids with their relationships with
Right.
their mom, and all of that piece of it was really important to me, and just kind of giving people that want to give it a shot and actually read about it, and let them know, like, I'm not the person that you have been
Mm.
told that I was. That was super important to me as well.
You're obviously very happy. You mentioned being in Hawaii and how chill things are and how much you appreciate your kids. We still see Brittany sometimes doing some crazy stuff, on Instagram and all that sort of thing. Do you think there's a world where she can kind of get back on track and go back on tour? Because everyone loves to tear the public heroes down, but everyone also loves a comeback and a return. Do you think she can do that?
um I mean, honestly, I don't think that there will be any tour ever.
Hmm. Gotcha.
I'm not saying that it's not possible.
Yeah.
It would be a really difficult, and that, look, I'd be one of the first people to say that I wish that would happen,
Mhm.
and I think that would be one of the biggest underdog stories in
Sure.
the history of
Yeah.
underdog stories, but there has to be some accountability
Mhm.
first. There has to be she has to ask for help. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
I've said it so much before, and I kind of feel like some people are listening to it and paying attention. Like, okay, yes, I think that he's right in this aspect, but the majority of it is just like, leave her alone, let her do what she wants to do. But it's like, when you care about somebody,
Sure.
you want them to be the best version of themselves, and all that. Now, like, I've done everything that I can. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And I
Yeah.
feel like she has to take that step. And I hope that she does, man. I really do. I hope for our kids' sake that she does. And I hope that, man, I'd be rooting for a comeback
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Well, dude, it's great talking to you, man. I really enjoyed your book, and I thought you did a great job. And then, once again, congratulations on being in Hawaii with all your kids. It's amazing.
Yeah, bro. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Cheers, man. Thank you. Mahalo.
All right, man. Thank you, brother.